What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of At a Glance, this series in which I give you an appetizer sample or glimpse into a particular faction in 40k. And the goal behind it is to help you decide if you want to look further into that force on your own, or maybe even start collecting that force as well. So, up on the chopping block this time, by viewer request, is going to be the Marines Malevolent Space Marine chapter, a Loyalist chapter founded in the 32nd millennium, but we don't really know which founding it was a part of exactly. So, with that said, they are a chapter of infamy. They are more infamous than known for good reasons, you could say, but they are very much loyal. They just are one of the more aggressive chapters out there and have an extreme disregard for collateral damage. Whether they or the Star Phantoms care less about collateral damage remains to be seen, but they really don't care about the collateral damage at all, and they're very aggressive, up there with the likes of the Blood Angels and the Space Wolves and all that in terms of aggression. So, with that said, they are an interesting chapter. Their aggression and their callousness has earned them some outright censure by other Imperial forces, and you could say low-level inquisitorial investigation, I guess. So, that is interesting. Before we get further into the limited fluff they have, let's look at their color scheme. Now, right away, when I look at their color scheme, I notice it's basically the reverse of the Sights of the Emperor color scheme. Here we have the torso and backpack being black, and the rest of the armor being yellow. The weapon is black, although their veterans' weaponry can also be given chevron markings of black and yellow, which could be cool, but considering the armor is yellow and black already, it could make it too busy, but it is something of note in their fluff, so if you want to do that, by all means you can. Their chest emblem is silver, like I said. Their helmet lenses tend to be red, and their squad markings are in black. Now, their chapter symbol, the best way I can describe it is a winged lightning bolt, a stylized winged lightning bolt. And it's a symbol that you could freehand, and if you did find it to download as a third-party transfer sheet for download, which you can find in fan-made decal sheets for numerous chapters, it would be very easy because it's black. You print it on clear decal paper and you're good to go. Conversely, you can use a black micro pen to kind of draw and color in the lightning bolt and the stylized wing. So, a lot of options for this particular symbol. Might be a good symbol to start with for learning freehanding too, because it's just one base color. It's a lightning bolt with a stylized wing on it. It may not be that difficult to learn. I don't know. I stay away from freehanding. But anyways, that's how they look. And it is very much kind of the reverse of how the Sights of the Emperor are arranged color scheme-wise. So that's just some food for thought. So, 32nd Millennium means they are an old chapter. We don't know too much about them. We do know they participated in the Third War of Armageddon, and we do know that they also participated in the Siege of the Fenris system. Basically, that was when you could say you had the Thousand Sons and some other Chaos forces fighting against the Imperium, basically fighting against the Space Wolves, and that is something of note. Now, the Marines Malevolent had a force there. It wasn't exactly a major force, but they are noted as being there. So that is something to look at. But what we know about their egotistical, callous nature comes from the Third War of Armageddon, when they caused huge collateral damage against a refugee camp. A refugee camp numbering around 12,000 survivors was attacked and had their defenses broken through by an orc raiding party. Now, this orc raiding party was pretty large, over 5,000 strong in terms of orcs just going in there running amok. So what the Marines Malevolent did is they fired upon the orcs with their whirlwind artillery support batteries. Now, this caused a lot of collateral damage because they were in the camp at the time. And while they wiped out all the orcs, eventually killing off the orcs and everything in battle, almost as many refugees died as well. The fluff stayed somewhere around 4,000 were killed by marine malevolent, you could say friendly fire, collateral damage type stuff. And they didn't bat an eye about it. They didn't care. They viewed it as a victory. They viewed it as necessary and not a big deal. In fact, they say that the survivors, that they deserve to die because they are weaklings and they're not fighting for their survival, and there is no such thing as innocence and all that jazz. Very hard-lined, one way of thinking, very much aggressive and callous and extreme in their thoughts. I mean, they're still defending the Imperium. It's not like they are abandoning them, but they look at weakness and the like as something that needs to be done away with. And as much as they defend the Imperium, if you're not taking up arms in your own survival, basically, you're worthless to them. So there's that. It's a very extreme viewpoint, and it's kind of neat to see the Marines Malevolent have this viewpoint, in all honesty. It puts them into contention against Imperial forces, the Inquisition, other Space Marine chapters. Forces now flat out refuse to fight alongside them. And the Salamanders themselves basically chastise the Marines Malevolent for their actions in that they betrayed the very people they were protecting. This isn't the only time that they, cross paths with the Salamanders in an unfavorable way. In one of the Salamanders novels, the Marines Malevolent cross paths with them as well, and further show their callous nature, their egotistical nature, and trying to gain equipment and basically using that as like a bargaining chip point to kind of get stuff out of the Salamanders in exchange for helping them out. It looked like to replenish their, at least this one battle force's armory of stuff. So they're definitely portrayed in that more aggressive, callous nature. Basically, story-wise, the Marines Malevolent look to be if the Imperium has one side point of view, they look to be kind of like the darker of the Imperium side, to show just how noble another force might be. The Marines Malevolent are thrown into the situation to show the difference and the callousness of their ways. So I like them, though. I like them because they are noted as being one of the most aggressive chapters, alongside the likes of Blood Angels and Space Wolves. So interesting fluff nonetheless. Now, I don't know their current standing. Like I said, they did participate in the Siege of Fenris system, and we do know that forces on all sides took some pretty heavy casualties and losses and damage. I don't know the exact final, you could say, battle roster of the Marines Malevolent after that. I don't see any reasoning why they would be killed off when the next edition hits fully, and we learn more about the fate of some Space Marine chapters. But because they're a lesser known chapter, because of their stature, I guess you could say, being kind of unfavorable in the Imperium's eyes by a lot of Imperial forces, but still a strong force to have, you could say there's a possibility. Now, I don't know. If they're not dead, then obviously that's good, and you can now put Primaris in their number if you wanted to as well. But as it stands, it just remains to be seen. Now, there's nothing in the fluff that I know about them to indicate that they would be threatened with extinction like that in terms of their strength and everything with the recent battles. But again, it remains to be seen. So assuming they aren't made extinct, I would definitely recommend the index book that has the Space Marines in them if you want to use that Band-Aid book until the codices come out. Or if you're going to wait for the codices to come out, I recommend seeing how the Space Marine Codex is going to get released to us again. If it's anything like the 7th edition Codex, that'll be the book to use. We don't know who exactly they are successor of. We know it's not Blood Angels. They don't have any type of the quirks like that. Not a member of the Unforgiven, so it's safely assumed they're not of Dark Angel descent. And they don't have the degeneration of gene seed and way of doing things that the Space Wolves have, so we know with confidence they're not from there either. Basically leaving us the the first founding chapter is represented by the Space Marine Codex, and if it does the same representation that way, then that'll be the book to use with basically whatever chapter tactic you feel, or whatever the equivalent will be, right? If there is such a thing, you feel works for your Marine's Malevolent force. Using the index book is just going to be basically playing Space Marines, just going about your business there. Anyways, that's how I recommend collecting them. I can't say too much, obviously, about a codex yet because we haven't seen what the 40k codices are going to be like now with this edition of the main rules. So we have to wait and see. When that is, I don't know. Hopefully sooner rather than later. With that said, collecting the Marines Malevolent is going to be pretty straightforward as well. Any of the generic bits and kits from GW and Forge World will work just fine. There really isn't much in terms of sculpted detail in Space Marines that is going to look like their symbol. That's really going to come down to freehanding it using a micro pen on a very dry shoulder pad. You want to make sure the paint's definitely dry, because if it's not dry like thoroughly, the micro pen is just going to like dig into the paint and it's not going to do too well. So that's the one thing you got to make sure is the paint's super dry. So you can do that, or paintbrush to freehand it, or if you can find a fan-made decal sheet, that'll work out very well because it's a black decal, no problems there. Outside of that, any of the generic bits and kits, like I mentioned, will work just fine. The big hang-up for them is going to be the yellow. There's more yellow on them than there is on the size of the Emperor, less than Imperial Fist, obviously. So if yellow is something you are fearing, this chapter might be a little bit intimidating to you. But at the same time, you have a lot of capability with the yellow and the black, especially with the yellow being weathered and more obviously dirtied and weathered. If you do that, it can lead to a pretty cool painting and weathering technique and approach to collecting these guys. So that's the Marines Malevolent, basically in a nutshell, in an at a glance. A very aggressive, callous, egotistical chapter that views themselves as might equals right, and they are mighty, so they are right in a way. But still loyal to the Imperium, defending Imperial planets, defending Imperial holdings, loyal to the Emperor, just in a very callous way. A very aggressive, callous, violent, infamous way. And that is appealing to players who don't want to play the prim and proper Paladin-esque Space Marines. We want something more, we're going to get the job done, but you might not like it. The Marines Malevolent are kind of in that boat. So there's that. Anyways, that's basically for the Marines Malevolent. Thanks for sticking through it. If you have any questions, comments, or requests, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Still tweaking the audio. Going to see what happens. Time will tell as I continue trying things out or figuring things out. So just bear with me. Again, I don't think it's horrible to the point of being unlistenable, but, it is what it is. Anyways, thanks for sticking through it. And until the next one, take it easy.